My name is Luke Matias, and this is the Mind Body Matias series. Goal setting. Without goal setting, how do you know if you're truly living your best life? How do you know if you're truly getting the results that you deserve in business, that you are being the best husband that you can possibly be, or the best friend that you can possibly be to those around you? Goal setting is something that is so important and makes such a difference in life. Then I cannot explain how important having an actual framework for goal setting really is. I've always had goals. I wanted to have that thing, and it was all these luxury, nonsensical assets. But what did it really mean? I had some wonderful influences in me that enabled me to sort of design almost my own framework here. And it's so simple. I'm going to share it with you today because it just works in all areas of my life, and I love it. And I just hone it and keep repeating and repeating every year, every 3 months, every 2 months, from a macro down to a micro scale, so that every goal I have that I'm serious about, I make inroads in achieving. First thing to do here is set yourself some mental time. It might be on a Saturday or a Sunday morning. It might be on a bank holiday, a public holiday, when no one else is around. You don't have any disturbances. You don't have any Facebook notifications going off and emails coming in and phone calls and even family. You need to really invest in a couple of hours here of alone time. Congratulations, that is already a start. That is already a start if you can do that. Now, goal setting has to be written down. There are no two ways about it. You can't just think, I'm going to be a millionaire, or I'm going to have this, that, and the other, or bring that client on board and just assume you're going to get there. Try this once, try it twice, and I would be super interested in your feedback. First step in goal setting. What do you want to be? Why are we setting goals? Where do you want to go? So think of you, if you're looking at home or a whiteboard, and get some blue tack or some sticky notes or a whiteboard, and on the far right side of the wall, write on a little post-it note what you want to be. Now, this, as I said, can be used in business, personal, for family, but today we're going to use it as a business example. Now, where you want to be as an end goal, this could be a key person of influence in your industry. You might want to have 1,000 touch points per week with your clients, or help 10,000 people a year become better people through your service, whatever it might be, or build 10 buildings in a year if you're a developer. Whatever the end goal is, we need to go into detail on that far right side of the board. So once that's completed, the next step, possibly the most important step of this whole operation, is go back to the far left side of the board and write down what you are right now, an honest appraisal of your current position. You might be earning $10,000 a year and you want to earn $1 million a year, for instance. Or you might be pretending mentally that you are successful and you want to become successful in whatever success means. An honest appraisal of your position is so important, so you can drill down very deeply. And it's honestly, when I first did this, it was pretty uncomfortable. I was pretending to be certain things. I was really worried about what others were thinking instead of really what really matters, and that's what's inside me. I was spending too much energy thinking about how others portrayed me. I was trying to be portrayed as a success when I mentally wasn't quite a success at the time. And this turns out the more successful you get, the less successful you feel. Drill deep, be honest. No one needs to see this. This is just for you. Once you have down a few points, that's great. That's your start. You've got your end goal and you've got, honestly, where you are right now. What does that mean? You hear all these comments around believe, conceive, and achieve, and all these different motivational speaks that you see on Instagram tiles. Now, what's important here is we've got the basis to a framework. I reckon this is probably only 5% though. You've got a goal, you've written it down, that's great. You've identified what you are now, that's great. But to steal a phrase from my friend Robin Sharma, ideation without execution is delusion. Ideation without execution is delusion. An idea without execution is ridiculous, is a waste. Everyone's got an idea. how you execute on ideas. Uber wasn't the first Uber, but they executed on Uber and they became the best. It is in the execution of the idea. That is where the gold is. So let's have a look here. We've got the end goal. We've got where we are right now. How do we get there? This is the practical stage of this whole framework. So where I find a great amount of value is firstly mapping out towards the left side of the wall of the website of the whiteboard, etc. You write down your assets that are already in play. Now, what does that mean? If my business wants to grow, what have I got in my business that I might be able to leverage from? Things like a website, things like your social following, things like your personal brand, or business programs like a referral program. Do people refer to you already? Associates who bring you business, friends in business. Who is on your side? Who is already there? What assets have you already got in play? So then we get drill a little bit deeper. So we go to the website. Okay, well, how many deals is my website bringing in? And why is it only bringing me in one a month? So you put a little ring around it and out like a little spider diagram. Okay, well, ideas around this are to maybe do some SEO work, for instance, or position it with other websites in a similar sort of vein, or even strategic partner websites. How do you get your website listed on other websites? Have a few little branch offs from the website piece, just to start stoking the fire. Social, your next asset. Everyone's got a social following of some sort, and if they don't, they're crazy. You absolutely should, whether it be business. Everyone's potential clients are on Facebook or Insta or LinkedIn, and you should be hitting all three. But let's go back. Assets already in play. You've got your social following. How do you leverage from that? Okay, well, I've got 100 followers or 1,000 followers. How is that going to bring me more business? How is that going to get me closer to my end goal? So a few branches off there. You might need to do some targeted lead generation. You might need to do some JVs with some influencers in your industry. Okay, well, how do I do that? Okay, well, you're going to have to write them down. Write these things around your social piece. Business programs. You've got a referral program already in place. Why isn't that getting me closer to my end goal? And how do I make the most of that referral program? So use it as a little ideas opportunity right now. Put a ring around business programs, your referral program. Okay, well, why aren't these guys referring me 10 deals instead of one deal? Okay, well, it might be difficult. They might not have the automation. They might not have access. They might not have the leader in the business available to them 24/7, or you just might not be on the tip of their tongue every time they think about, in my case, let's talk finance. Every time they talk about finance, they're not thinking about me. Well, why not? We need to find ways of making them think about you. Remember, this is goal setting. This is practical. This is something that we're going to get towards that end goal. The asset's already in play. Who else is an asset that's already in play? What have you got in your business? Who refers to you? Who generates to you? Where do your leads come from? These are the sort of things that need to be in this first section of the board. This is super fun, because how are you going to get towards your end goal? I've got a saying, you shake your network. There's someone in your network that knows somebody in their network that can help you towards that end goal, whatever that needs to be. So identify your network. Maybe pick 4, 5, 10 people in your network that if you work with, or that have the opportunity to introduce you to somebody spectacular who can help you towards your end goal. So write it down. It might be John, Peter, Sue, and Jane in 4 little bubbles down the middle of the whiteboard, or down the middle of the post-it note, whatever it might be, the piece of paper, the middle area of the whole diagram. Because I know John, and John can potentially introduce me to Steve. Steve's a big player. Wherever I'm going, Steve is a big player in that industry, and I reckon if I can get on Steve's good side, and I have no access to him right now. So John's in there. Now, what I've got to think about then is, how can I get John to introduce me to Steve? How can I get person A to introduce me to person B? You've got to then think about value. What value can you bring to that first person, to John? How can you get him to happily introduce you to Steve? Okay, well, you can have a little think about it. You can maybe put tickets to the horse races, or his favourite footy game on a Friday night, or a game of golf, however it might be. You need to bring value so that you can get into Steve. Peter, Sue and Jane are these further people. Jane might work for whatever company it is, ABC company. And she might be in HR for that company. And she might have a little handle on everybody within that company. And you want to get to the top of the chart. You want to get to the CFO or CEO of ABC company. Well, you're going to have to go through Jane. And she is your ideal opportunity to get in there. How are you going to get in there? So again, bringing value to Jane. You can map this out around her in a little bubble. Jane loves horses. So, okay, well, maybe I'm going to take her and her kids horse riding or for a horse riding lesson. Okay, well, who are her kids? Map out your value proposition for these people. Because then it's great fun taking Jane out horse riding with the kids, and you have so much fun, genuine fun with it, on the way through to getting her to introduce you to the rest of the ABC company. You see where the mind's going here? You identify your network and you find ways of making them spruik you, find ways of making, they want to help you, they want to introduce you. Write it down. They're happy because you're bringing value to them. You're putting a smile on their face. You're putting a smile on your face. This is one great opportunity to bring a lot of happiness into your network and a lot of genuine targeted result into your network. So we've got assets already in play down the left. We've got your network in there. Okay, well, then you can start really joining them up. If you've got some Facebook role and you want to get into ABC company, you can almost start lead generating to the ABC company with some content there. Let us know if you need any help with this. This is the goal. If you want to get in front and be well known through the ABC company, you can put some targeted value, some targeted ads, some targeted videos or stories or something straight to the employees of the ABC company. You can line up some SEO, you can have some Facebook widgets. There are all sorts of different methods of solidifying your attention. Remember, this is all an attention grab. Everything in life really is an attention grab. If you want to be where you are at the end of this, if you want to get to the goal at the end of this whiteboard, at the far right side of whatever you're looking at, you need attention from people around you, from people not around you, and from people right at that pointy end of where you want to be. How do you get it there? So we've got the assets that are currently in play. We've got a network that you've already got, but you might not be thinking really productively through. You might not be thinking strategically through your network. So you've got to write it down. Because I know John, Peter, Sue, and Jane. But if I've not got it written down in front of me thinking, okay, well, I've got to take Jane horse riding with her family, it's not going to get done. It's just an idea. Idea without execution is delusion. This is the starting process of the execution. It's all got to be down there in front of you. I'm just a super believer, unless you are extremely, extremely smart and you're one of the ridiculous minority, you have to get it on paper. You have to get it in front of you. You have to get it away from your mind digitally so you can see it. Next stage, so we've got assets in play. We've got identifying your network steps. Then we've got the actual steps to make. So this towards the far right here, we're getting close to the end. You can see the end is in sight. Your mind is going free because you've written down all this wonderful network that you don't realize that you had access to. You don't realize how many assets you've already got in play. But when you're doing this wonderful thing called business, your head's in the sand sometimes and you're not taking full consideration of all the assets you've already got. So steps. Step number one, well, about Jane, I need to get on her good side. So I'm going to do this. My social sort of assets that are already in place, I need to really rev them up because I'm wasting time through Facebook, through Insta, through LinkedIn. They're not really getting me the results. Okay, well, why? Well, I need to bring in a specialist or I need to get someone to give me a hand with something. I need them to link to my website. Okay, well, that's step two. I need a full overhaul of my social media management or my social media strategy, what I want out of it. Step three might be spend more time in the morning on myself so I have all this goal setting. Revisit this goal setting once a week, once a day. To get to this end goal, we know where we're starting. You have to constantly push this, otherwise you're simply not going to get there. My thought process was here. I wanted to do a podcast. I wanted to write a book initially. And I'm not much of a writer. And to be honest with you, I don't enjoy writing. So I enjoy speaking, I enjoy podcasting, I enjoy video. These are the sort of medias that I actually really enjoy. But I wanted a book because there are certain areas in life where I get asked a lot of questions, just the nature of the beast with my life and businesses. I get asked a lot of questions in certain topics, and I wanted to write a book about it. Instead, I've decided to do a podcast series, a finite podcast series where there are going to be an intro, an outro, and 10 podcasts. This is going to act like my book. This isn't going to be ongoing. This is going to act like my book. It's going to be out there. There are my thoughts, my opinions, my learnings, because I have some wonderful people around me influencing me, and I make the most of every single one of those people. For me, goal setting was the first because I needed to set a goal of having a podcast. I don't know about podcasts. I've never done one before. I've been on a few, but I've never done this sort of thing before. So I wrote, my end goal is to help influence as many people as possible without the downturn of time, without having to influence people on a one-by-one basis. Think about it. That's the same as having a book. You're able to speak to the masses without having to sell your time to speak. People can listen to podcasts. People can read books in their own manner. 1 million people can read a book. Can you speak to 1 million people? No. So where are we at the start? I was an uneducated person in podcasts. I haven't got one. I don't have a following. But this was the honest appraisal of myself. So who around me can help? Now, what I've done is I've actually videoed this whole goal setting of creating a podcast that we'll make available. We'll put a link in the bio, etc., etc. As you can see, I don't really know the terminology because this is literally very raw and it's a real thing. Goal setting for me right now is to create a podcast. So I've got my assets already in play. I've got my identifying a network. Things for me. I know a friend who's got a podcast. He makes it onto the video that if you fancy watching, and I actually call him live while we're calling the video. His name's Sean O'Leary, and he took my call, and then he gave me the next steps. So if you're looking at identifying a network, Sean was in there because he has his own podcast show, the Transform Man Show. So he could give me a bit of a leg up in knowledge. Okay, well, what do I need to download, or what speakers do I need, or what microphones do I need? And he gave me the answers right then and there. So I all of a sudden get towards that end, that goal a little bit quicker. And then I put in place my steps. My steps were bite off more than you can chew and chew it, basically. Begin. Everything was on, I used in this video. At my office, I've got a whole wall of mirrors, just literally just painted the whole mirror, everything from left to right. It was about 5-6 meters long. And then I've got my assets in play. I've got my identifying my network. I've got my steps. I've made rings around every one of them. I've mapped it out again more neatly. I've revisited it. And here is step number 1. Well, it's not step number 1. Step number 1 was working out how to do all this. But one of my steps is begin. And it was going to start on this goal setting podcast. This is so interesting. I find it super cool when people goal set for different things, not just business. So many people have some form of goal setting in business, or they know they sort of count their numbers or their introductions or their referrals, but they don't do this in other areas in life. This goal setting could be a case of getting fit for a holiday, or being in shape to be able to run the 3-legged father race at your kid's sports day. Or it could be being a better husband, being a better wife. Think about it. Let's go through that for an example. How do I become a better husband? This is hard hitting. More time, more planning, more awareness, more special mental, mindful downtime, disconnection. Well, straight off the bat, everyone can be a better something. So be honest with yourself, get it written down there, and have a goal. If my goal was to be a better father, okay, well, little Faithy, I need to spend more time with her in the morning and the evening, and it needs to be disconnected time. By that I mean uninterrupted. I need to speak directly to her rather than speaking semi while she's sat on my knee and I'm checking Facebook or my emails on my phone. That's not mindful time with my little Faithy. I'm going to be a better father. She's going to be remembering me more if I'm looking directly in her eyes. She's 9 months old. It still makes a difference. I have been through this goal setting to become the best father I can possibly be, because it almost reminds me to do certain things at certain times. Goal setting is something I go through on an annual basis on a very large macro level. And then every quarter, I will revisit that and redo my goals for the next 90 days. That's in business and that's in personal. It's been a really interesting year this year. My first child, and it's the first year of her life, seeing how my goals changed from when she was born, how I was going to fit in my own personal time, my gym, my alone time, my thinking time, my family, my daughter, my businesses. But by having it all out on a whiteboard, on a mirror, on Post-it notes, whatever it might be, you just find that little avenue towards the end goal of what that needs to be, whatever it is, in whichever stage of life. The great thing about having it on a big board in front of you is you can literally write it all down in blue, ring certain things in green, highlight certain things in red, and it doesn't matter because nobody else needs to make a lot of sense out of this. As long as you get the sense and as you get the clarity, it is so vital. I cannot recommend having some form of goal setting framework and revisiting, because that's the execution. Have your idea, execute it. Otherwise you're delusional if you think you're going to get to that end goal. This has been so much fun. I hope you watched the video on how a live goal setting framework works for me. And I suppose the step of my final step of goal setting, my end goal, it'll all become very obvious to see, because there'll either be a podcast series up or there won't. Can I goal set? Is it a real thing? Let's find out. So much fun. Thank you for listening.